that is not the only kind of habit you want to break. You want to break thinking habits and emotional habits. And in a way, those are harder to break because they're a little trickier. Programming literally is something you have to interrupt. And then what you do is you have self-discipline to replace it and do the opposite of whatever that program is. And that's going to get you through these things much more quickly. The other thing is too, is you have to just forgive yourself for even choosing that reality, because like I was saying earlier, we all have to choose some kind of dysfunction to come into this world and come into this reality. And some of us might regret our choices now as to what we took on in this world and what we took on to be able to get the entrance pass into human reality. Because everybody has to take on some kind of dysfunction before you're allowed to be in this reality. And to promise, or to attempt, not promise, because it's an experience. Sometimes you can do it, sometimes you can't. It depends on your resolve and your fortitude and your willingness to persevere as to whether you're going to overcome this or not, and then contribute to the mass consciousness bank, the new sphere of humanity, and how this healing can be done. Because in a way, you're creating these methods of healing, you're creating these paths of healing, and as you go by, it's sort of like you leave a signpost for others behind you who are also trying to heal the same things. So after realizing what the pattern is, then it just comes to the self-discipline. It really gets down to that, policing your thoughts, policing your emotions, and telling yourself, no, I am not going to do the pattern. And then what happens is, you literally reroute the neural pathways in your brain. Because right now, your thoughts and your feelings too, they're biochemical interactions in your body. What they're doing is they travel down this well-used path in your brain, these neural pathways. It's sort of like, okay, well, thinking that you're wonderful, you don't travel down that path very often, so that path isn't as deeply grooved. Whereas this path where you always think that you kind of suck, then this one is really deeply grooved. And so as the energy is moving through your brain, it literally chooses the path of least resistance. And so it's going to, this is how programs work, programs in your consciousness, in human consciousness work, is that it literally is going to go through deeply rutted, well-used paths that get used all the time. So literally, it takes, in a way, as you know, it's a monumental effort to change a habit. And everybody's tried to quit ice cream or alcohol or pot or cigarettes or something, right? Or heroin or drugs or something, right? Everybody here has tried to quit something, some sort of pattern that we didn't that we didn't want to have anymore. And then, but that is not the only kind of habit you want to break. You want to break thinking habits and emotional habits. And in a way, those are harder to break because they're a little trickier. You don't notice that you're doing, like for instance, if you're drinking, you're going to notice that you're drinking alcohol and you're not, and you're like, okay, I'm not supposed to be doing that. I'm trying to break this habit. Whereas thinking or feeling, it's almost like, oh shoot, I just did that for like an hour and I didn't even notice that I had done it. So in a way, it's an addiction to old ways of thinking and an addiction to old ways of emotions, emotional patterns and feelings. And so you have to have such self-discipline to break these thinking habits and these emotional habits, especially if you have been through traumatic experiences. I've been through traumatic experiences that are off the charts. And I've lived through stuff that people just don't live through. I had a lot of healing to do. Instead of using the word healing in a way, I had a lot of letting go to do. A lot of letting go. Not holding blame towards people who had done those things to me. Not even the parents. It's time to stop blaming your parents. Your parents, you picked your parents. You actually picked your parents because they're the ones who would set up your life challenges the way that you had agreed to at the soul level before you came here. So your parents did you a huge favor, even if they made mistakes. They did exactly what you wanted in parents to set up your life challenges, the ones that you agreed to do. And so if you stop blaming anyone or you stop holding anyone responsible, how could they have done that? That was a bad and evil person or whatever. Or that person was a real screw-up. Instead of even looking at it that way, look at them as dream characters in your dream. Challenge of the dream, this particular human life is one dream for the soul. And there's the challenge of this dream, and you have all these characters that are set up to create the challenge, the plot, the story of the movie. And so you're sort of like the hero of the movie, trying to find the solution to these problems that were set up for you. Because without problems, then there is no hero, right? There is no growth, there's no expansion, there's no awakening, if you're not awakening from something. So be thankful that you've had some really tough experiences. Those of you who have had really, 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 really difficult experiences, you're tough souls. Warriors. And you wouldn't have done it if you couldn't do it. You wouldn't have done it if you wouldn't have taken those things on. You wouldn't have let yourself be raped. You wouldn't have let yourself be abused. You wouldn't have been born to alcoholic parents. You wouldn't have been in a situation of poverty if your soul was not strong enough to handle it. You never get anything you can't handle. Ever. And some people may think, oh my gosh, well, the stuff I'm just never going to heal from the stuff I went through. It's not true. You have to let it go. It's not about healing, fixing, rebuilding. It's none of that. It's letting go. And then when you are free of this prison that you make for yourself, this identity is like a prison that you create for yourself. With these programs and these experiences, it becomes a prison that we put ourselves in. When we free ourselves from all of that and let the things drop away and say, I let go of those experiences of the past. I don't dream them anymore. I decide I'm going to dream a good dream now. You have the power to do that. When you do that, all kinds of different experiences in life can happen. It can be really beautiful. And it doesn't mean that you're cursed for forever be in a constantly healing state or a broken state. You're not going to forever be in that situation. I'd say it took me well into my late, probably around 27, I stopped being suicidal. It took that long to at least stop that part. And I'd say it took maybe another 3 or 4 years before I could actually really, truly be happy. Now, I don't think it's going to take that long anymore. It took that long because I didn't have any help. I didn't have any money. I didn't have these workshops. We didn't even have YouTube and the internet back then. There was no internet. Can you imagine that? Wow, no internet. Some people are like, I can't even imagine life without it. But there wasn't as much help then. But now, because there's so many of us in my generation who have gone through a lot of this stuff. I'm 52 now, and we've gone through a lot of this stuff and already made some of the pathways and made some of the possibilities, and this brought more help to the generation that's here now. And those of us who are a little older, we did some of the harder work because the paths were darker then. There's more light now than there used to be around these healing experiences and these healing endeavors. Be grateful to yourself for being strong enough to take on a really tough job, like being abused as a child. Be grateful for that, because it makes you more masterful than if you had never had anything happen bad. A lot of people think, oh, well, the more enlightened ones are the ones that never had anything bad happen to them. Actually, it's the reverse. The more enlightened one, the more wise ones are the ones who had something really, really bad happen to them, but they healed, or they let go, or they emerged as the eternal self rather than the damaged human that they used to think they were. This is the difference. You get a kind of wisdom by having had traumatic experiences that you can't get in any other way. Don't look at it as a curse. Don't look at it as this thing that's insurmountable. I'm okay, so you can be okay too.
Thank you for sharing.
Yeah. And if I could heal from the stuff that I healed from, you can heal. Because, I mean, I don't know anybody who went through stuff like this, and it was pretty traumatic. And I don't know anybody who has healed it. I know that there are some. I don't know if they're so visible right now. But you can too.